All right, so we've got our Tetris controls working fine to move the piece around but keep it within the confines of the playing field. The next thing we need to do is start to get our active piece falling downward. So let's start out with just the standard Tetris animation where it moves down at a steady velocity. So I'll need to begin my animation loop here. So while, let's make a logical variable here. Now let's just call it falling, because the thing starts out falling. So falling will equal true here. So while we are falling, then we want to update the active piece's position. So let's have active piece. Let's see, we're only interested at this point in animating in the Y direction because we're controlling the X direction. So I can just say active piece.pause.y, and then we'll take off from that 1, because I'm setting these up so that they all have dimension of 1. So for example, when we move it to the left and right, we're just moving it by 1 each time. So we'll do the same thing here, just move it by 1 square each time. Oh yeah, I needed to give this thing a rate. I guess we better give this a rate of 1. Oh, actually the falling rate. Let's leave this as a variable here. We might need to play around with this. So let's see, we'll need to declare that before the main loop, animation rate. Let's start out at 1. There we go. And then this is the part where we need to start adding these blocks to the list of frozen pieces, to list of frozen blocks. So if the active piece has made contact with the top of a frozen square or the bottom of the field, add the active piece's blocks to the list of frozen squares and exit the animation loop. Okay, so this is where we need to check. Let's first check for bottom of the field. So let's first check for bottom of playing field. We'll work on the getting to the top of the frozen squares next. Let's see. So for this, I can actually use the same type of check that I have up here. So we're looking for copy and paste. So we're looking for if the field underscore right. So we're no longer interested in field underscore right. Now we want field underscore bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bottom minus active piece.pause.y. And we will need to flip that around here. Oh, excuse me. We want to do the other way around, don't we? Oh, yeah. No, that's fine. Okay, so we flip that around so that we have a positive number. But we want to check for whether this is less than or equal to the active piece's width. Technically, we want this to be the active piece's height. There we go. And so here is where we would say that falling was equal to false. Cool. And I know I could set this up as the logical variable equals this long string here. I'll probably clean that up in a future installment. For right now, I think that's enough for this. So at that point, we would no longer be falling. And we would have to go back up to the main loop. Okay, let's double check before we get into making the main loop. Let's double check, make sure this works. We're going to tab that out for just a moment so that this is the only thing happening. So let's see, we'll have a control 2. Oh, inconsistent indentation, etc., etc. How is that an inconsistent? Oh, right up here. There we go. I forgot to de-indent something. There we go. All right, so this guy comes down. I can move him left. I can move him right. Now we wait to see what happens when he reaches the bottom. Boom! He stopped. Okay, good, good. So we're able to trigger the condition appropriately. So let's re-indent these. And then I also want to add this piece to the list of frozen blocks. So let's see, what did I call that list up here? Frozen squares. Okay, that's fine. I probably need to start calling them squares instead of blocks. So frozen squares dot append active underscore piece. Now we will need to clean this up later, or expand this later, I guess I should say, because right now I've just got a single square. And so that's really easy to add to this list, but instead I'll need to add all the squares that make up the piece to be squares that make up the piece. But I haven't generated actual pieces yet. We're just generating a square right now. Okay, so let's try tabbing this in. And so we'll begin our main loop here. Let's just have this be while true for right now so that it'll continue going. So basically now we've got one loop within another loop. So this main loop controls what our active piece is, and it gives me my active piece, so I don't need to worry about printing that width anymore. So it creates the active piece, sets falling equal to true. Then we run the animation loop until falling equals false. Then we loop back over to here and continue. Now I'm not clearing the row full of frozen squares yet. We'll try that in just a minute. So let's hit Control 2 on this. Now I want to make sure that my pieces end up reappearing all right, and I need to set the starting point to be up at the top. There it goes. Okay, I've repopulated there, so I can get this guy to fall over somewhere. It's also kind of cool seeing the squares or the blocks in 3D here. Okay, cool. So that's wonderful. So the next couple things I need to do is check for whether a row is full and also check for whether they fall on top of each other. You see, right now they can occupy the same space. We need to disallow that. Let's make the easy change first of having these folks start out at the top. So let's have this field underscore top. And I suppose for consistency, this starting X should be the average of field left plus field right. I mean, that's going to be 0 because you obviously want it centered. But, you know, if somebody wanted to move the field over for one of those, you know, little displays on the side, that would be fine there too. All right, let's just double check, make sure that did what we thought it would. Yes, we are starting at the top, which means it will take longer for me to test this thing. And there we go. Actually, let me double check that. These are not stopping at the bottom. Okay, this is where I have to make a little bit of an adjustment to these things. Oh, I think I don't want that to start, excuse me, I want that to start that minus minus a half, because I think they're starting up too tall. Let's try that. Nope, now there's -1 maybe, is that what I want? Control 2. I want them to start out with where they are not aligned, where they're not, where their top is flush with this part here. Let's see what happens here at the bottom. Yeah, it's getting stuck there. All right, let's do this. Let's set the animation rate to 0. I want to see where these things are starting. Oh. That's not what a rate of 0 should give you, I feel like. So apparently a rate of 0 just makes them keep falling. Okay, that's weird. Rate of 0.0001. There we go. Yeah, they're starting out way too... They're starting up above the point where I want them to go. Okay, so let's try subtract... Oh, excuse me, I don't want to be subtracting from the X component. I want to subtract from the Y component. Control 2. All right, that's too much. All right, I must want a half. Control 2. There we go. Now they're starting at the top. So now they should be ending at the bottom. Basically, I didn't align them correctly with the grid. Boom. Okay, yeah, now they are ending at the bottom. I can still move them left and right. Okay, we're good there. We're good there. Awesome, awesome. So the last thing we need to check is for whether we have reached one block on top of the other, whether a block has ended up on top of another one. I think the best way to do that is going to be to basically make a loop. Let's leave this as one check, and then we'll make another check for whether we've reached the top of another one. So let's see, I want to look for over every block in frozen squares. Excuse me, I need to call them squares to be consistent. For a square in frozen squares, there we go. So we're going to check for whether, basically for whether this same thing happens with those guys. So we'll say copy, say paste. So if the active piece.y minus the, let's see, we want to have square.position.y. So the active piece is what we're looking at, and then this is the square in the frozen squares, is less than or equal to active piece dot height. I might need to add a little fudge factor onto there, but we'll see. And then I can just do the same thing onto here. We'll say copy and paste. And again, we'll need to expand this part later. I'll probably make that a function to just add the current piece to the set of frozen squares. All right, let's see if that's sufficient to work with now. Oh, what just happened here? That was unexpected. Square in frozen squares. Did I get an error message? Not enough memory to open this page. Ooh, that's weird. Never seen that before. Okay, so I figured out what the problem is. The problem is that it adds that piece to the list of frozen squares here, but then it checks it against itself and it keeps adding it to the frozen squares. So let's see. How about we do this? Let's say, well, I suppose the easiest way to check against that is to just take this and put it here first. Oh, okay. Another way I can keep that from happening would be to take this out from here, take it out from here too, and then what I can do is add that after it exits the loop, because that doesn't have to be part of the loop. I just have to get the falling turned to false, and then I can have this part happen after the loop where it adds the active piece to the list of frozen squares. Okay, let's try that again. I hope I didn't cause the GlowScript server somewhere to crash. I hope that was just a crash on my side. There we go. Okay, so this square down here should now be in the list of frozen squares, meaning it should check against this square up here. So let's see whether this square stops on top of the currently frozen square. There we go. Okay, let's double check that now. Oh, you know what? I did forget something. This thing is going to stop because it's only checking the Y. It's not also checking the X, now that I think about it. So this one will stop when it reaches this level right here. Yep, sure enough. Okay, I need to go back and fix that. Let's see. So we have the Y check here. So let's say, and let's try active piece.position.x equals square.position.x. There we go. Yeah, see how it's making this little jagged structure there? That's because it's not checking for the X's. It's like they're each carrying an invisible shelf with them. Okay, let's try this now. You didn't realize Tetris could be this difficult. It's such a basic game, it seems like. And at this point, I'm probably getting comments saying, why don't you just start with an existing Tetris code that's already out there? Well, you know what? I like making things myself. That's how I learn it. So let's see if these two land next to each other. Okay, good. So here comes this one. Okay, cool. So we've got that part working. Now I'm going to make a note to myself because we're using an equality here, and you generally want to avoid inequality. So I'm going to make a note to expand equalities to be within a tolerance value, because basically when these things start accelerating downward, it's no longer going to be along this nice even grid that we're doing right now. Let's make sure this guy lands on top of this one. And so we'll need to check for whether they're within some tolerance of each other, and then we can snap them to a grid later on. Let's see, to make that piece, we'll also need to snap newly frozen squares to grid. There we go. That'll just be a note for myself for when we actually add the Tetris pieces. So we've got a good start to our Tetris game here. I think our next thing we'll need to do is check for whether an entire row is full, and then clear that row, since that's kind of the basis of the game. And then after that, we'll start adding in actual Tetris pieces instead of just these blocks. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.